Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Derek Young. It is time for the KSO Preview Show, which is what we kind of get going here every week before a game. And for most K-State fans, you're probably glad that K-State's back at home for this week's matchup as they take on North Dakota to open up the home slate. It will be the second game of the season, though, oddly enough, because K-State obviously has that week 0 loss hanging over their head right now. So I guess before we even get into the game itself and everything else going on, where you just came from listening to Joe Klanderman and Matt Wells talk, DY, where would you say that the tone of the team is at now that you've heard from all the coaches this week and then some of the players on Monday as well?
I would, in a couple sentences, I would say that they have an overwhelming bad taste in their mouth, disappointed in themselves, and I don't think it's manifesting itself. We'll find out Saturday. I don't know if it's manifesting itself in them letting it linger and it beat you twice or it impact you the next week. I think it's, and again, this isn't scientific. I could be getting this wrong in terms of the vibes. It almost feels like it's manifesting itself as I can't wait to put another game, get into another game and put it behind them. Like eager to turn the page, just to freaking forget about it, I guess. So it is interesting. I think I don't know if it's the first time, but the first time I felt this powerful, I would say that both coordinators, and apologetic's not the word, maybe regretful on a few things. Both coordinators, I think, were, they speak to the media on every Thursday. I thought showed regret about how some things happened, which I think is probably kind of what you want. You don't really get that from Chris Kleiman because he likes to take a different approach, even keeled, not too high, not too low, and sometimes it drives fans crazy. I think Kleinerman and Wells both wear their emotions on their sleeves a little bit more, and I thought that Kleinerman and Wells both seem to allude to wanting a few things back and really feeling like they let one get away, which they did. They should probably feel that way, but it was interesting to see and hear that come out in their answers, I guess.
I mean, Matt Wells seemed fired up. He was energetic from the get-go. I felt like, I don't know that apologetic was the word, but he definitely was, I think, quicker to just kind of point out, like, these are the three specific spots that, like, we screwed up and we needed to be better, and it probably cost us the game. And, I think Joe Klanderman felt that way, and you could get the vibe that obviously he was bothered by it, but also, the defense we know is dealing with maybe a little bit more that is holding them back, and they're in a slightly tougher spot. But I didn't think the offense played horribly on Saturday against Iowa State. It just wasn't a great first half. They missed some opportunities that they kind of kicked themselves on, but then the rain washed away, and Matt Wells put it on himself for putting Avery in a bad spot on the fourth down that came up short. And I think we've all talked about it. We think Avery needs to do a better job as a runner, but he was really good as a passer. And if you get that game out of Avery Johnson every single time K-State goes out, they should win those games. And that's why I go back to putting the loss more so on the defense than anything.
Yeah, it feels easier to do that way just because you really define the game by moments, and which isn't always fair. And we always weigh the second half more than the first half just because of how the dominoes fall, which is not really fair. The first half is just as important as the second half. But the second half is when you feel like are the winning and losing plays. But if you just switch those halves, then you might be putting it on the offense. So I get a little, the defense just didn't close out. They got wore down. They have to be able to make a play to win that game. They only needed to make one, and they didn't make any of them to get to that one. So it's a fair call out, and it's understandably so in terms of stating it that way. But the offense, the defense let 3 fourth downs be converted on them, and the offense let 3 fourth down slip away. So it was kind of 50-50 in my book, the way that unfolded. I was too hard on Avery Johnson, but this team has to be better in short yardage. Has to be better in the red zone. All the things that have kind of been brought up. They have to block better, especially on the perimeter. Be a little bit more technique sound, assignment sound, all the things. But it's got to be cleaner. But Avery played well enough to win. They didn't get a lot going in that first half, but they also offensively were probably dealt a worse hand than the defense was dealt. The defense had the advantage of the weather probably being on their side. The offense did not. It really shrinks the playbook when you can't really do anything through the air for a period of time. And they have to be able to run the ball in those situations. They couldn't, so that's on them. But you also, because of special teams and just unfortunately where you got the turnover, you were backed up. Matt Wells talked about that too. When you're inside your own 10 or 15 and the rain is pouring like it was, you were out there and you had to put the camera away for a time or two. So when the rain's coming down like that and you're inside your own 10 or 15 yard line, the playbook shrinks. And you're still trying to figure out and basically change your game plan on the fly because you lost Dylan Edwards before you took an offensive snap. So I get that there was some frustrations about where the offense was in that first half, but they didn't have a lot go their way either.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. There was some backing up that happened. Field position was a big deal, and it's not just about when you forced your turnovers versus when Iowa State did theirs. It's the punting we've talked about. They've had a tough time getting punts off in the last couple of years that actually flip the field and are helping them in a beneficial way. Even if sometimes you're putting the punter in a tough spot, they haven't even been able to get one off. You feel like that, oh man, that's a difference-making type of punt that obviously, early on in Chris Kleiman's time, you could see Devin Ankle do. You could see Ty Zentner do. Even Jack Bloomer could do that occasionally. We haven't seen that since Simon McClannon's taken that job over. So, I mean, it's the beauty of this for K-State is that it was still very much a team loss. Nobody can walk out of there and go, man, we did our part, It's similar to, and even though they didn't really do it, like the 2023 game with Iowa State, the offense scored 35 points in the dumping snow. We know who the reason for that loss was. That was the defense. They couldn't stop a nosebleed out there. This past Saturday, a little bit of a different story. But now they get to come home and you get what should be a nice little present for you, and that's just somebody that you can beat the crap out of in North Dakota. And Chris Kleiman's done that very well in his time at K-State. Only one of these games has been within, I think, like 5 touchdowns, and that was the narrow win over Southern Illinois in 2021 when Skylar Thompson got hurt early and Will Howard had to play most of the game. K-State won 31-23. But other than that, the closest game was the 34-0 win over South Dakota in the 2022 Big 12 championship season when the offense still hadn't really figured things out. So K-State's a 25.5-point favorite in this game, DY, for the home opener. Why is there a reason to think that the game could be as close as that line suggests?
It's probably baking in a little bit of a hangover as you come from about 9 hours away in Europe, on Sunday. So you have less practice time. You really have less preparation time. You're getting your body clock back on schedule. You're getting recovery. You're down Dylan Edwards. I'm sure that maybe has a little bit of a thing too, because you didn't really see the running game get going without him. So there's a little bit of everything that probably goes into that. I think 25.5 is probably being too kind to North Dakota. I think I'll just say it like this. If Kansas State won 35-10, I don't know that people would be thrilled about
it. If it's 35-10, we're not having positive discussions after the game.
Depending on how many possessions there were, I guess. But
yeah, unless North Dakota comes out here and decides they're just going to choke the clock, and it's like, K-State only got the ball 8 times or something. I guess even if they got it 8 times, you look at 35 is probably a bit of a failure. But yeah, I guess there's a world in which North Dakota comes out and does this. But
they're more defensive oriented.
Yeah.
So at eight possessions, maybe 35 is the number. So you got to hope there's more than 8 possessions. Win the turnover margin, that'll flip it too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the big things this week that I think is important. And I don't know how you see this, but one of the things that was lacking from the defense last week was, despite the fact that they recovered 2 key fumbles in the game, was the lack of big plays made by specifically the secondary. VJ Payne is supposed to be your best defensive player behind Austin Romaine. You didn't hear much from him. The opportunity for an interception came and it hit Donovan McIntosh in the chest and fell to the ground. In the last 3 games against FCS opponents, which you would think are ripe for, making big plays and getting splashy, K-State only has 1 interception in 88 pass attempts that have gone in the air against their FCS opponents. That's probably one of the major things that I'm looking for in this game for K-State, because I feel like the offense is going to get it figured out at some point. Dylan Edwards will come back. He will run the ball fine. I think the offensive line is going to take some time to get adjusted, but they've got enough bodies there that, like I've said throughout the offseason, I think they're going to be able to get it figured out at some point. It's just a matter of, it's really tough in the bad weather and in game 1 to probably be working through those combinations in real time. It's going to take a little bit to bear out. And that's why it's, unfortunate that this team was in the position they were with how the schedule set up and what game they had to play first this season. But the defense needs to step up and make some splash plays, especially against an opponent that you would look at and say, okay, they are inferior. You should be able to handle whatever their quarterback is. You should be able to stay even with their receivers and all this. I'm going to need a couple of turnovers forced because of the secondary. I need some interceptions this week. I think that's one of the main things that you could take away from this game, unless, the scenario you painted comes true and K-State only wins 35-10.
Yeah. And for me, to be honest, I will say this, and maybe this is just too much faith in the situation and the personnel here, but I think Donovan McIntosh probably intercepts that ball 9 times out of 10, but this was that 1 time out of 10 he didn't. And I think it's because Quay Moss, I don't know if you saw the replay, I think he got in the way.
Yeah, he may have gotten a piece of it.
Or I think he just obstructed him because he flew right in front of McIntosh right before the ball arrived.
Well, and the way the ball was thrown, that McIntosh probably is thinking, even if it's not touched, and he's probably thinking, okay, I'm grabbing this and taking it the other way, and then you get somebody in your eyesight, it could mess with you. I could give you that. It's still in that moment, I think, a play that has to be made.
Yeah, it's a play that changes the game if it is made.
Yeah,
I could argue that Kansas State wins that game if they pick that pass off, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I'd make the argument that K-State wins that game if they just get that stop on 4th down, the way that Avery Johnson had things rolling. So yeah, and that's why, you hit on it. But yeah, if the offense does what they do in the first half and the second half, and it's all reversed, and we're probably putting this more on the offense, but the difference is, we were able to see in the first half, Iowa State's offense, basically just like K-State's, couldn't really do anything successful in that weather. And then you're able to see, okay, in the second half, not like Iowa State's defense is going to be winning any awards for the breakdowns that they had that K-State was able to score on, but they were able to get a couple of those key stops that you needed. K-State never was.
They just got off the field on 4th down. I mean, that's really what it was. If Kansas State converts one of those 4th downs, again, we'd probably be talking about a different outcome or result.
And probably because Taylor Mauser seemed confident in what they could do on 4th down in that game. And Matt Wells, you can tell, he said it today that he takes fault for what took place on 4th down. Probably didn't set Avery up well enough. We know that over the last 2, now 3 seasons, short yardage has not been a friend to K-State. They're lost. They don't know what to do.
I would have probably changed up a little bit of the sequence on 3rd and 4th down inside the 10 that they failed. But the 4th down to Joe Jackson that was stopped short of the line of scrimmage, that was the same play that actually converted a 4th down earlier in the game. So it's hard to maybe fault the idea there, but I think you have to keep the ball in Avery Johnson's hands at least once. That would be my quibble. But think about how, and this is probably what's the most frustrating to fans. If they convert that 4th down, they go in and score that possession probably. Mm-hmm. It's another 7 points on the ball. If Joe Jackson doesn't fumble on his best moment of the day, they probably get at least 3 there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, they're probably up 17-7 or 21-7 at halftime of that
and
game.
then if Donovan McIntosh gets that interception, you can wipe points off the board for Iowa State because they went on to score that drive. It's the frustrating thing is how razor thin the margins are, but that's what it's been for Kansas State against Iowa State the last 3 years. And really, it's what's kind of plagued Kansas State in their losses, not just against Iowa State, but in the last couple seasons, and obviously the opener this year as well. This is another stat that'll probably blow your mind. Last 5 games, if you include turnover on downs as a turnover, how many turnovers does Kansas State have in the last 5 games? If you include turnover on downs.
Boy. Well, I'm just trying to think of straight up turnovers in general. They've been doing at least like 2 a game there. So I'm going to guess that K-State's probably at 14.
24.
Oh my goodness.
24 turnovers in the last 5 games if you include turnover on downs.
That is insanity right there for K-State. And it's just, the difference too is like how do you make teams pay?
You got to think how easy it was to get to that because he had 5 against Iowa State this past week.
Yeah, that's true. But you just you go and you look at this and see how it plays out. Like think back. This is going to seem really simple.
To be honest, I think both the Iowa State games combined are like 11.
Yeah. Look back. There was only 1 turnover in the game in Columbia in 2023, which was the start of this stretch of K-State in these tight games with teams at their level or a little bit better struggling. K-State threw a pick on their second drive of the game. It was 7-7. Missouri was able to go and get a field goal off of that drive. So they were able to get points off of the 1 turnover from that game. They ended up winning by 3 points, 30-27. And you can kind of keep going down like the Oklahoma State loss that season. How many times did K-State turn the ball over and it immediately turned into points for Oklahoma State, even if it was just 3 that they were able to get?
And then turnover on downs, probably. I'm sure there's some of those. They don't get qualified as turnovers, but they are turnovers. I wish they did get called turnovers, to be quite honest.
I would agree with that. I think that might be something that needs to be amended because it's essentially what it's turning into in college football now.
Yep.
And you can just go down the list, 23 and 24, like turnovers.
As much people go for it on 4th down. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just that's where you look at it and see K-State's defense isn't getting those opportunities. And then when they are, the offense isn't able to come out and make the other team pay as regularly as others. So maybe, that still might bring it down to the root of it being the defense and the fact that they're not able to go out and pick their offense up most of the time, although they did it on the second drive of the game for Iowa State.
Or it's the offense not coming through on short yardage.
Yeah. So the thing is, they're pretty, married problems right here for K-State right now.
Yeah, it is. But it's like, it's not even like the grander, broader departments and areas of the game. It's like the little crap.
Yeah, it's a problem for them right now, and that's what we've talked about.
Margins.
People have brought up, why is it seems like K-State beats themselves more than others? Well, part of that is like you're just more locked into K-State, but I do genuinely believe that like K-State in the games that they've played, they are losing these games because of themselves, or at least they're not giving themselves a fair chance with the other team to go out and win the game. They are making it harder on themselves. And it doesn't just have to be losses that you can point to that as, but even though it's pretty apparent, like, why'd you get beat 38-9 to BYU last year? Well, you let it snowball because of things you did yourself. Houston, we know you definitely beat yourself. That wasn't a good team. Arizona State, Iowa State, all that last year. But go and look at some of the wins. Like, you've made it harder on yourselves. They threw a backbreaking pick at Colorado last year and had to go throw a 50-yard bomb to win the game. KU, they were almost driving to be in control of that game. Avery Johnson puts the ball on the ground, and then you're scrambling in the end to try to get the win over KU. And you needed a little bit of good fortune in that game. Same thing happened the year prior in Lawrence when you were facing Kansas. Like, it's not just that it's the losses. They are also making some of the wins that they've gotten lately harder than they need to be. And that's where things need to change pretty quick. So that's why I think making big plays on defense, proving you can do that is a big deal. I think the offense is going to ultimately be fine because based on what we saw on Saturday, if this team has to become a pass heavy offense this season, I actually think it's not going to be the best thing in the world for them. And it certainly makes it a lot harder to reach your ceiling if you're K-State, but I think they could be capable of doing it with what they have.
I think that's why their floor is still 7-5 or 8-4, because I think they're going to be able to, if it has to be the way they get by, to be pass happy and win 7 or 8 games. I think they can do that. The problem is in the Midwest, and we just saw it in Ireland. Yeah. You run into rain, you run into snow, you run into cold, where there is going to be some games where you can't win by being pass happy.
Yeah, I mean, after you play TCU on October 11th, you don't have a game left where you can guarantee that it's going to be pass-happy conditions because you're going to play at KU on October 25th. It could get cold and rainy by then. November 1st, Texas Tech comes to town. Mid-November and late November at Oklahoma State and at Utah. You know that game in Utah is going to be brutally cold. And then you end at home against Colorado. Like, you're not playing in these situations that might be a little bit better for you. Whereas, like, I'm sure you could go and find some other team in the Big 12 this year and look at how they close out and go, oh, you get to play 2 of the Arizona schools. You get to play in Houston or something like
glass half
Orlando.
Full. Glass half full. You'd hope maybe you'd figured out the running game by then.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like, I have, after Saturday, if I'm going to jump to conclusions, I feel good about maybe where the passing game is, or will at least be when it's, put up or shut up time again. I don't feel that way about the run game, but I feel like you probably can figure it out. What I don't know that they can figure out is short yardage, because that's not a one-game issue.
Yeah, that's been a 3-year issue at this point now. Like, I brought it up in the
red zone's now we're on second year of that.
Yeah. Well, I brought it up in the chat we've been doing on KSO today, but like, you can go back to 2023. They weren't able to convert quarterback sneaks with Will Howard at quarterback. And that's a bigger bodied guy that you would think would be able to kind of batter his way through there. So, and that's also, you keep in mind who was still on that team. Like, you still had Cooper Beebe on that team. You still had Katori Leviston on that team. You still had Hayden Gillum on it. You still had a lot of guys that were on that Big 12 championship offensive line.
At some point, the offensive line's got to move people to get better at that, because if you're just going to rely on your offensive coordinator to get creative in short yardage situations, he's going to start running out of things pretty quickly.
I mean, well, go look at KU and Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl 3 years ago. Like that, they literally said after the game, KU ran out of their plays to run there because, they had to use them so many times throughout the game. And I think you're right. I totally agree with you. This team just has to keep the ball in Avery Johnson's hands more for the time being on short yardage situations, because he can throw the ball and also with those legs. Now, look, he's got to up his ability as a runner right now.
He's got to get better as a runner. He's got to know those 2 or 3 moments in every game where he's just got to lower the shoulder and absorb contact. He's got to know where the marker is, because once you get to that marker, if you want to shy, you would do what you want. But at the end of the day, we're talking about short yardage, and maybe that's Avery, but like, it's Avery's running across the board, needs to get better. It's not really just short yardage either. But something that we've talked, both me and you have pointed out. My partners at 3 Mall agreed. They pointed it out, so I think we're all in agreement. But obviously, we've run into some resistance on the message board, so not everyone's in agreement about we're talking more holistically here, big picture. But I think we agree, not everyone does, that there's not a whole lot you can prove by just going and beating North Dakota, Army, Arizona, and UCF.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're 4-1. What they lost to Iowa State. Our feelings about this team, regardless of what happens in those 4 games, is not going to change from what it is today. As a whole, I'm speaking for you, but I think you tend to feel the same. Like, there's nothing that Kansas State can do against North Dakota, Army, Arizona, or UCF that's going to have me exactly feeling better. I think they got to go do it against a good team, and I think you're along the same page. with that being said, what do you need to see to at least, even if you don't think convinced that means they're better, what do you need to see this week?
Well, that's where I say I need to see the secondary force some turnovers, make some big plays, make me feel like you're in this game. Because really, there's only one DB that made me felt like he was in the game on Saturday, and it was Quay Moss, which I would tell people is a good sign that it feels like you kind of have that, DB transfer back like you had with Reggie Stubblefield or Josh Hayes or Julius, like these guys that came in. And it's like, okay, they have this spot figured out, but you need that. The offense just, show me what it looks like with a full day of, not adverse conditions. Like K-State needs to go out and score. It's lofty, and it could change because, it could be different, but I think 52 is my target number for points this week against North Dakota.
I don't have a target number of points yet until I know, because obviously the possessions.
I'll give him benefit. I'll change it a little bit if we get into the flow of the game and it's just like, oh, you're not going to get. But in general,
or if you have 42 in the third quarter and Kleiman calls off the dog. So I don't know if there's a certain number that I'm wanting. I think there's a certain way it looks that I'm wanting.
Yeah. Well, they need to start fast on offense because the last few years against FCS opponents, they have not done that. They obviously had the big Knowles run in 22, but then they were pretty slow throughout that. I think Will started 2023. Did he throw a pick on the second or first drive of the game?
For me, it's just the offensive line needs to control the line of scrimmage. Be able to run the ball. To be honest, it's like I don't care if they rein in the passing game even a little bit to try to establish some running game. And that may come at the expense of some of your touchdowns that you want. But I mean, some of the things I just feel like you need to work out. And so if you have to win a little bit uglier than I almost, the way that I'm talking through it now, I don't really care. You want to have some success while you're working those things out. Working out the kinks. But anyway, the offensive line has to dominate the line of scrimmage. If they can't dominate the line of scrimmage against North Dakota, I think there are bad days coming.
K-State only had one play last week against Iowa State, non-trick play division, where they had a run longer than 10 yards with either Avery or the running backs. And it was the 17-yard run that Joe Jackson fumbled on at Iowa State's 20-yard line. So you need more of those kind of burst plays from the running backs. That's where I would go, okay, the offensive line, even though it's an inferior opponent, they should move them around. We should see more of those this week because we know Joe Jackson's capable of it. He had the one against Iowa State, and he's done it against other teams.
And I would say I would like to see Avery Johnson get loose in the run game a little bit too. But I understand that might be needless and unnecessary in a risk that's
but he could
maybe a scramble, not even a one. Just take off, and I want to see him run 23 miles per hour in a game. How about that?
That's and look, if he does it like that, in theory, he should have room and time to slide down and keep himself safe on a run like that. I want to see a 15 to 20-yard run where it's just he sees it, goes, and turns on the jets, like you're talking about. I think we're both pretty aligned with it. Doesn't have to be, electric the way that it goes, but you need to just see some more things that make you okay. They're getting it because we know North Dakota's not good.
And defensively, I didn't even think they were bad against Iowa State. The problem is they couldn't get off the field on fourth down. I mean, they by the numbers, the defense played good in Ireland. They got Iowa State in a fourth down 4 different times or 3 different times where they converted all 3. I mean, they just didn't make that final play. They didn't close. But by the numbers, I mean, Iowa State barely had 4 yards of play.
Yeah, they just made it too easy on them down the stretch.
Iowa State just won in the clutch moments. That they did with smoke and mirrors. It's frustrating. So I didn't come away very threatened by how the secondary played him a little bit different. Donovan McIntosh got beat once. Wesley Fair got beat once. Those are man coverage, really good play action. He got sucked in on short yardage. Sometimes those things are going to happen, especially in game 1, especially since it was the first start for both. It didn't overly concern me, to be honest. I thought Zayshawn Rich was terrific and probably the best defensive back on the team. I thought Quay Moss made loud plays. He needs to take some better angles, but I thought he made some really loud plays. I thought the defensive line was dominant until they wore down. Kind of getting a little irritated and annoyed that they're getting worn down in game one in the fourth quarter. But they were down, 2 guys that they're probably going to count on a lot this year. So I get it, but like you gotta find a way. You got to find a way still. So I mean, it's a little irritating, but it's good to know that when they were in top four and they were as dominant as we thought, because I think they ripped off 4 or 5 sacks alone in the first half.
Yeah. Some things to know about North Dakota going into this one. Last season, they finished 44th in Bill Connolly's SP Plus for FCS teams. And they had the 96th ranked defense in the FCS. They struggled on defense last year. They were outside the top 100 in run defense, and they were just outside of the inside of the top 100 in terms of scoring defense. They allowed over 30 points a game last year to FCS teams.
And maybe it's not a good thing, but they do have more back on defense than offense.
Yeah, they're going to have they bring back their leading tackler at linebacker. They bring back one of their better defensive ends. So I like they'll be a good enough test for K-State, but not one that's like overwhelming, And I think that's kind of what you want in a game like this is.
And offensively, their skill position players are basically all gone.
Yeah. I will say I have criticized some of the schedule makers in the Big 12 in the past, though, because you look around and you see some of these other teams around the country. It's like the FCS teams are playing go 2-10 and don't even sniff the FCS playoffs. Then it's like the Big 12 is just like, let's line up any Missouri Valley team we can find. It's like that seems like a bad idea. So I give credit to KU for scheduling Wagner. It's like, good find.
Lyndon Wood last year, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, KU has got it figured out there. Quit scheduling these tougher teams in the FCS ranks. North Dakota's not.
Iowa State's played a team that's a lot better than North Dakota.
I mean, K-State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Iowa, all pretty similar programs, all seem to schedule FCS opponents years. It's like you could lose that game.
Yeah, but I was saying like the team that Iowa State's playing, South Dakota. A lot better than North Dakota. Like they can't sleepwalk.
No. Yeah, we'll see how it ends up going. All right. We'll take a break from all that and we'll get into America's favorite part of the week. It's time to talk about best bets. And a look, DY started off hot last week, week 0, 3-0. He took some of the good ones off the board. KU was a smart one. I didn't want to be all the same with him, although I did think Stanford would win. That idiot defensive lineman doing his 29-second long TikTok dance probably cost me the game right there.
We almost got backdoored on the Ireland under, though.
Yeah, that's all right. We knew all along.
Iowa State kneeled it out. Good thing. Whew.
Yep. Well, they do like to bet in Iowa. So Matt Campbell, question mark. That's a joke. Not anything real there. Yeah, that's a joke. That's all jokes. All right. So yeah, I went 1 and 2. KU decided not to score after the second half started, and Fresno, Kurt's boy, not as good as Cade. Let's just say that.
The KU won't hurt you because they didn't score in the second half. They just just slowed it down.
Yeah, well, makes you wonder. All right, here we go. Week 2, already in a 2-game hole for me. I am taking South Carolina minus 7.5 on Sunday against Virginia Tech.
Shane's doing it to dad's team.
Yeah, I know, the Beamer Bowl. Look, it could very well not happen, but I think I have South Carolina playing for the SEC title this year, and if they do that, I think it's probably going to be a battle between Arch Manning and Lenora Sellers for the Heisman Trophy winner this year.
That's on the. I think Lenora Sellers is going to be great, but I don't know that they. I don't know if they can get to the SEC championship. I think they're actually going to be a pretty solid team. So I like your optimism on that.
It's very much taking a shot. I had to take last week I had to do these predictions with Alec Bussey on radio in Iowa, and I took one team that I was like, I believe in this, and I took another team I was like, I could see it. South Carolina's schedule more manageable than you would think because of who they get at home. But yes, I know that that's a leap.
A little bit of a leap, but they get a better roster than people think. And I like that South Carolina 7.5. I thought about taking it for reals because they may have one of the best defensive lines in all the country, maybe the best defensive lineman in the country. Forget his name, Stewart. right? Stewart, I don't know. I think it's Stewart, Evan Stewart, something like that. But
Oh,
in Virginia Tech's breaking in 4 new offensive linemen, so not a good time for them.
yeah, no, not a great time at all. Also, I would just, Dylan Stewart is who you were
No,
looking for, by the way.
yeah.
I would also just point out Lenoris is quite the name. His dad's name is Norris, so I'm trying to figure out where the LA came from to put in front of it. And then Hawaii, I are we going to go a whole season with Hawaii involved all the time? They play Arizona late Saturday night. I can't buy into Brent Brennan, and if Hawaii can beat Stanford, then I certainly think they can hang within 18 points of Arizona.
I
So
don't know. Did you hear there's some Arizona writers that apparently think they could blow out both K-State and Iowa
yeah,
State?
well, I've come to learn that I think a lot of the Arizona riders might be idiots. So yes, I'm taking the Rainbow Warriors to cover in that game down there. And then normally we have a specific one for the game that we'll throw in there, but I told you I like it too much. I think it's crazy that K-State's only a 25.5 point favorite. Chris Kleiman is not going to let these teams sleepwalk through an FCS opponent. They've dominated him every year that he's been at K-State, except for the year where Skylar Thompson got hurt. I think they'd be better equipped to handle a problem like that that they had to go through in 2021. So they're going to win by at least 26 points. And as we've talked, if they win by that number, we're probably pretty disappointed in the outcome. We're thinking there are some issues there.
Depending
So
on if it was like there's scenarios where it would be fine.
I don't know that there is, because then that goes back to the defense being an issue and
But
not
like,
being able to get off the field, right?
what if there's 10 seconds left and North
Uh,
Dakota's scoring a touchdown
you've probably
on
given up too many points.
scoring a touchdown on I'm gonna like a true freshman's
Stop,
defensive end, true
stop,
freshman.
stop even trying to give this thing life here. I know you're going to be rooting for North Dakota in the final few seconds on Saturday to score 20 points to cover here, but
No, no,
no, not
no,
going to happen.
no. I think Kansas State covers. I think there's a world where they don't cover comfortably.
Okay, well, I don't care. It can be uncomfortable just as long as they do it.
Yep. All right, mine. Texas plus one and
Love
a
it.
half. Look, I think it's a kind of crazy that Ohio State, and this is maybe me being too close, even though I don't get to follow them that much anyway. But Ohio State's like a consensus top 2 team, like they're number 1 or number 2 in every poll. I'm like, well, they lost their quarterback. They lost both the running backs, both Quinshon Judkins and
Yeah.
Travion Henderson. Jeremiah Smith is an alien, maybe the best college wide receiver, even as a true freshman that I've ever seen. Like the gifts that dude has is amazing. But they lost some offensive line. They lost damn near their entire defense, and now they're still like number 1 or number 2. And the first game back, still replacing all those dudes, number 1 and number 2, and a favorite over a Texas team that lost a bit, but they also bring back a bit too. And that their quarterback had already has 4 or 5 starts under his belt for one reason or another because Quinn Ewers was unhealthy at times. I'll be honest, in real life, I even did an alt line here of Texas minus 6.5. I got like plus 200 and something. So I would flirt with that. I think Texas wins this maybe by multiple scores. So that's how good I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like Texas in this one as well. So it's a great pick.
Yeah. And then Utah, they're playing UCLA. It's the first game of the year. So it's a game where like the coaches actually prepare a lot more than usual for this game just because of where it's on the schedule. You have plenty of weeks to prepare. Kyle Whittingham versus Deshaun Foster is a hell of a mismatch in my book. I'm sorry. That's just where I'm at. And I think Utah's better this year. They might be better earlier than they are later, which might be good for K-State, just because they're probably going to have to run Devin Dampier into the ground to win. But that's all year. I mean, so
Yeah.
we'll see how healthy he is by the end. I think this is another one where Utah can win by multiple scores. Nebraska, I don't know if I love Nebraska yet. I love their schedule. Like you can not love Nebraska and think they could go 9-3 this year with that schedule, to be quite honest. But I don't know if I love Nebraska, but I know I hate Cincinnati. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. No, I also would be on Nebraska in this game. Like, I guess there's a world where maybe Cincinnati's actually better than what I think. I mean, some people nationally think Cincinnati's not that bad. Saw them with my own
I
two
don't
eyes last year. I thought they were terrible, and they lost their running back that was actually good. So
Yeah, I mean Dante Corleone, I think is a stud, but I don't know if they have any other good players. And I know that's disrespectful.
well, there's not many defensive tackles that can actually make like a real impact on a game. You can
Yeah,
get, like you can factor that out pretty easily. So yeah.
and I think half the time that they're over under is like 5.5, just like every other bad Big 12 team. Like the lowest over under in the Big 12 wins was 5.5. Half the time is because it's like their schedule. Like there is still going to be 3 or 4 games that they can win in the league because they got a nice, gift from the league. I think they probably play UCF and Arizona.
Yeah, they no, you're absolutely right. I mean, they play UCF, they play Oklahoma State, they play Arizona. They also, play some teams with like question marks this year, which would be like BYU and Utah. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it, you could argue outside of Iowa State, that is their toughest game, but they get them at home. Their other toughest game on the schedule, it's either at KU, at Utah, or home against Baylor. So that's a far cry from what some of the other teams in the league are going to be going up against.
Yeah, it's far cry from what Kansas State has, to be quite honest.
So yeah, you would take that schedule
on top of Cincinnati too. People don't want to hear this but the game was just played. Kansas State, Iowa State. Iowa State won Farmageddon. They don't have to play Texas Tech, Baylor, or Utah.
Yeah, didn't want to hear that. Didn't want to.
All
right.
To be honest, I think Iowa State's a front runner to make it to Arlington.
No, I think with that win, they absolutely are. So yeah, they should be there. It's up to one man to go out there and try and stop them from doing it. And that's Chris Kleiman. He's got to get things back on the wagon.
Or it's funny because Kansas State can't beat Iowa State, but Iowa State can't beat KU. So
true. That's true. There's a little triangle going on
and
there.
KU can't beat K-State. Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's go back to K-State, North Dakota here and close things out with who your game MVPs need to be offensively and defense in this one. I mean, I guess I would imagine you're going to go somewhere within like the offensive line range or the running back situation since what you talked about earlier.
Did we go best case, worst scenario?
You can give me your
best case scenario is just basically you overpower them. You enforce your will. You treat them like a middle of the road FCS team, right? Worst case scenario is you still can't run the ball. I think that's what I would assume. And then you have to throw the ball 40 times just to be North Dakota. I think that would be the worst case scenario. I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's I just have such a hard time believing that they would lose this game. And the other thing too is like, I don't think
worst case scenario is a loss, but I think worst case scenario is maybe like what Iowa State did last year, where you just don't play good on offense.
Yeah. Or, you've given up like 17 points by halftime or something, and that doesn't make you feel very good. I just, I think we've just come back from it. Do you feel like you've had a tough time adjusting back time wise and all that stuff? Like, have you felt,
I'm curious what your answer will be on this, but for me, no,
I haven't either. I've felt perfectly normal and fine.
I thought I was, Sunday was a full day of travel and I was ready to go to bed at night once I got home.
But it was a normal time, I got home at 10 o'clock and I was like, okay, I can go to bed now.
Yeah, I went right to bed. Monday, I was probably sluggish a little bit, but it didn't really impact my productivity for the most part. It just slower. And then, to be honest, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know, I just felt it was worse going there, man.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of overblown. I mean, best case scenario is, they go out and they win this game 59-0 or something, and everything just like the North Dakota offense doesn't even have a chance. The defense is doing a great job getting off the field, making some of those big plays. The offense makes it look easy. You get a lot of big fun plays for the crowd to get into where, Avery's hitting Jace Brown or Jerron Tibbs or Jaron Bradley and all that stuff. You get that excitement from it. I mean, the worst case, it is probably you just go out there and the offense may still look okay, but it feels like you're kind of still holding back. You're playing down your competition. And then the defense just is allowing more extended drives than what you would want to see, even if they're not ending in points or they're getting a couple field goals or whatever. And like, I guess if North Dakota's extending drives, they're probably going to go for it some. So you're going to get a little bit of that test that you're wanting to see. But the worst case scenario, it's always a loss. I don't think realistically it would be a loss in this situation. You're probably just looking at, you come out of this game feeling really gross and it turns into, all year I've been like, I don't think the Army game is anything to freak out about. You could play to a level in this game that makes you now worry that you could lose to Army, or I've been making fun of the people that act like they're scared to go to Stillwater this year. That also like would bring that into play, or like losing to Arizona then becomes a legitimate thing that's on the table. But I don't envision that happening.
I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, well, it would suck for everybody. All right, so who needs to step up here? Who do you want to see have a big game, offense and defense? You can't say Avery Johnson.
Yeah, I don't think I would, because if you have to depend on Avery Johnson to have a good game against North Dakota, something.
Well, and he played well enough last week to just kind of
but
tamp down the pressure on him for a little bit, not for long, but
you need other people to get going around him. That's the deal, and you need to be able to beat a team like North Dakota without Avery Johnson going superhuman, to be quite honest. So
do you want to be like Drew Galloway, who said yesterday he wants 5 touchdowns from Avery to break the single game record?
No, I'm not doing that. I would say what I need to see is growth from the right side of the offensive line, but I wouldn't say that's the MVP. But I think that might be more important than anything. But I would say maybe the MVP might be John Pastore, because he was the best offensive lineman last week. We really do want to point out the offensive line this week and see them dominate the line of scrimmage. Maybe Kansas State sees what Pastore did last week and maybe runs more action his way even. So I'll say Pastore. It's kind of a boring answer, but an interesting one.
I'll go kind of in the same vein, and I'll just say Joe Jackson, because if Joe Jackson has an MVP-like performance, it probably means the offensive line did some good things. Or on the other side of that, it would just be that Joe Jackson was able to evolve a little bit more and be a playmaker himself in spite of it, because either way, those would be good things for K-State in the absence of Dylan Edwards.
It's true, because if they don't run the ball well, let's just say they don't.
Yeah. You're
not only going to start pointing fingers at the offensive line, you're going to start pointing fingers like, is there anything beyond Dylan Edwards on this backfield?
And that's probably that. Maybe that's the worst case offensive scenario, is that you have to go out and you win this game, and you make Avery throw for 350 yards.
That's what I said, right? That was my worst case scenario, is like you have to have Avery throw 40 times to actually win.
Yeah, which they've had to do a lot recently. Defensive side of the ball, I've already kind of talked about it. I think you want a guy like Donovan McIntosh to bounce back this week, because he had the ball that hit him that could have been a pick. He got beat on one of the touchdowns. He has the speed that if he gets the ball, he could do something with it. I think you want to see Donovan McIntosh make a splash play, because outside of those 2 really bad moments for him, I still thought that he did some good things at various points in the game last week. It's just the moments that you notice drag things down quite a bit. And that's the real problem with K-State's performance last week. You lose a game 24-21, and I don't think it was an overall terrible performance by everybody, but it ends in such a disastrous way. And the things that led to you not winning that game were so apparent and were so, tough to take in and accept, that you need to see some things change. So I'll go Donovan McIntosh on defense.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I struggle here on the defensive side of things. I think when you play a team like this, you just want to dominate the line of scrimmage almost. So give me, you know what?
5-sack game for Toby.
No, I feel like I'm doing the Brian.
Is that on the table?
I feel like I'm doing the Brian Windhorst thing.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, but I don't even know if he's going to play. I think there's a chance. Like, let's see the flashes from Ryan Davis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think if he plays, you want that. Like, that's what we've talked about, as we've heard the hype all off season, now, if he gets out there, you've got an opportunity here. All right, so go ahead, DY, and give us your prediction for this game.
I got, I got not a perfect game for Kansas State, but you are probably going to leave the stadium not completely upset or disappointed, but also not blown away. I think it's going to be somehow find that middle ground. I got it like 38-10, 40-10.
Oh, okay. All right. 38-10 would feel just really gross to me, but
I think 38-10 is probably at the bottom edge of fine.
Yeah. I think you're underestimating what K-State fans want to see here. I think if they don't walk out of there blown away, they're just going to be really mad. I'm going to go 52-10. I think they need to get to the 52. I think the offense can score. And then I think that you probably get a few things to sneak past. The ball goes through the legs a couple times and you give up a touchdown and a field goal maybe. Really, I throw the 52 on there because I want them to give Luis Rodriguez a legit field goal opportunity in this game. I think that's important.
That's going to be one of the things I write if I ever have enough time to do anything. But Luis Rodriguez needs some work.
Yeah. So, if you, as tempting as it might be, like in the second quarter, if you have 4th and 4 at the 18-yard line or something, throw Luis Rodriguez out there and let him kick it. Even if it's going to feel boring, it's going to feel lame. He needs that opportunity to kick one of those, mid-30s to beyond field goal in a game like this. So
I agree, and who knows if he gets that next week against the Army. He needs work before Arizona, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's close this out. Big 12 scoreboard. Look around at the rest of the Big 12. A lot of crappy games, as there always are in Week 1. I'll start with this question for you, DY. Does the Big 12 go 16-0 in Week 1? And if not, how many losses are there?
Yeah,
I mean, you're already taking Nebraska, so you're saying that's a loss, so they don't. So in addition to Cincinnati losing, who else do you think loses Week 1 in the Big 12?
I think Auburn Baylor is a toss-up. So but UCF should be Jacksonville State. I think they had their roster completely taken away to West Virginia.
Yeah, but Gavin Wimsatt's their quarterback, DY. I don't think they lose the game, but I think Jacksonville State covers.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of all the games. Utah beats UCLA.
Well, here's some of what I would call the notables for you. Those were the 3 probably most important ones there.
I would think TCU wins, but I just have no idea what to expect for North Carolina. But Bill Belichick's first game, who knows? I think Colorado's going to be pesky this year, but a lot of people like Georgia Tech. So
I think Colorado wins that game.
Yeah.
I'm on Colorado there, but yeah.
Caden Salter, I think there's a world where Caden Salter has a really good year, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think the Big 12, somebody weird is going to lose in this, even though I feel good about a lot of the teams. Oklahoma State, UT Martin, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. That's going to be kind of a fascinating one to see what kind of start it gets off to. But UT Martin has lost a little bit from the team that K-State got to see last year. So I do think Cincinnati loses. Outside of that, and I think Baylor and Colorado win. So it's, who on Saturday has the weird loss. I think any of those teams out west could be a target of that. So like either Arizona or Utah. And those would make you feel pretty bad about that portion of the league. Okay, yeah. And then South Dakota, Iowa State's going to be fascinating because Iowa State always kind of struggles with those Missouri Valley teams. And, coming off the win, like, does that hurt or help them going into that game?
Yeah. I think there's a world where Arizona is vulnerable. I think there's a world where TCU could lose, obviously. Yeah. Everyone else feels fine, I think. If I was going to put anyone like on the real like upset watch, I don't think it would be Oklahoma State. I think I would have it as probably Iowa State or Arizona, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it and look around the rest of the Big 12 next week when we get into it, and we'll have some more real games to kind of discuss too next week. Some of the better matchups will come out there. KU Missouri will be one of them. We know that the K-State and Army will be fascinating, and we'll talk about that next week. But if you're not done wanting to hear about K-State North Dakota, which kick off with the home opener 6 o'clock on Saturday night, DY's got plenty of stuff still coming with 3MAW that you can listen to. I've got Power Cat game day duties with Mitch Fortner, Tim Everson, and Zach Nemechek over the weekend, 4 hours before kickoff. And then we've got a slew of our written content that will get you ready for the weekend and everything going on with K-State football right now over at K-StateOnline. So if you head to On3, you can find it. You'll also get to see the list of visitors for the weekend that Drew Galloway has put together, and plenty of other things to keep you occupied thinking about K-State football and trying to shove past the season opening loss last week against Iowa State. So K-State football gets started in earnest stateside at 6 o'clock Saturday night. KSO will be there. Drew and I will be live after the game recapping it. We'll also have Chris Kleiman's post-game press conference up immediately for you to take in as soon as that finishes up, and then plenty of different angles of attack from myself, DY, and Drew on what we saw in the game. So for Derek Young, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening to the KSO Show, and we'll talk to you again Saturday night after the Cats beat North Dakota.